Let's move on to our next story that we've got for you this morning. Yassin Aslam, this name will probably be unfamiliar to you, but together with his colleague James Farah, he had a huge impact on the world's best funded startup. Yassin from High Wycombe and James are two former Uber drivers who took the firm to court in the UK and won last November. The pair have now been named as one of the 100 most influential people shaping British technology for their battle with the company. We can speak to Yassin now. Good morning to you.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Andy. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, my friend. Tell us more about why you took on this case in the first place.
Okay, just to give you a background, I've actually been in this minicab trade since 2006. We initially filed this case in 2015. We had a tribunal hearing in 2016, which we won. It's quite clear. The judge gave a very harsh judgment. And I think there's a little confusion where a lot of people don't understand what it is. Basically, what we ruled were LIMB workers, which is a category which sits in the middle between an employee and a self-employee. Right. But anyway, Uber appealed that in 2017. Again, we won that in the appeal tribunal. Last year, Uber then appealed to the High Court, and again, we won it again in High Court. So they have now appealed at the Supreme Court. We're still waiting for a date at the Supreme Court. Now, I think it's the first case ever in the gig economy, but I think in our case, the law already exists. The problem we're having is the government is not doing a good job in terms of enforcing these laws. Now, I'm a low-paid worker, and it's not just like this case itself affects many drivers, like in the gig economy, whether they're Uber drivers, because what we're seeing is companies like Uber coming into the market, misclassifying the drivers as self-employed.
Can I just dive in there? Just because for a majority of our listeners who won't be aware of the terminology and et cetera, what do you mean by Uber classifying drivers?
Okay, basically, Uber classified drivers as self-employed independent contractors. And basically, it's the same like as in terms of like Addison Lee or any other taxi. And we could talk about Deliveroo and so many other gig economy. Now, the reason why they do it is like we have the minimum the minimum wage law, like £8.21 per an hour. Now, the law is there for a reason. So that doesn't mean just because you're an independent contractor or self-employed person, it means that's the reason why you should be paid below the minimum wage. Now, it's good for Uber to classify us as self-employed and have as many drivers as possible on their app, which gives customers more availability. Mm-hmm. But it means drivers are sitting around not earning any money. Now, just to go back to clarify, in the UK, we have like three status. You have an employee, which means like you're actually employed by the company. They pay your NI. You get loads of other benefits like holiday
pay, sick pay and stuff like that.
Pension, trade union rights. And then you have a self-employee. What that means is you actually run your own business. You have full control. You decide what you want to charge. In a way, you could have someone else working for you. Like just a classic example would be a builder or a plumber.
Yes.
But what we also have is a worker status. That sits in the middle between a self-employed and an employee, self-employee. So you have the middle status. Now, what it means is if you're a worker, like in our case, we're LIMB workers, that means you're still self-employed, but you're in business, running someone else's business. Like in our case, we're actually working for Uber because they have control. They set the fares, they pay us, they charge the customers. But what it means is if you're a LIMB worker, you're entitled to certain benefits, like you're entitled to the minimum wage for every hour you're logged on after your expenses. You're also entitled to 28 days holiday pay per year and also trade union rights. Now, an average driver, and this is for Uber, would need to work 35 hours just to offset their expenses. So that means you've got to work 35 hours before you make any money. Now, at the same time, I'm also the General Secretary for United Private Hire Drivers, which is the largest UK trade body for private hire drivers in the UK. So we also represent drivers at Luton Airport, Addison Lee drivers. So we also have filed something similar where they're going for the worker status. Now, in the Addison Lee case, drivers are working up to 70 hours just to make £4.72 an hour. Now, the laws are there to protect us, and the problem we find is they're not being enforced. And in my case, I'm just an average low-paid worker. It was not possible for me to take on a company like Uber. And I was lucky, blessed, because I had the backing of my union, IWGB, and we had some brilliant legal team that come and supported us. But even then, even though we initially won in 2016, that was the first step because there was uncertainty around our legal status. But when the judge confirmed what our status was, Uber then were able to appeal it because they could afford to do that. And even now, they're dragging the process. So it's unfair on workers like myself that have to go through this legal process.
That's the thing, I think, because it is dragging out because, Uber appealed, but you won again. But the company have now appealed to the Supreme Court. So it's not the end of the matter, is it? I mean, this could keep going on and on and on, couldn't it?
Exactly. And this is where my problem is. It's like this case was initially filed in 2015. So we're now into 2019. We're still nowhere. Now, the government did commission Matthew Taylor out to do something. But again, to me, as a low-paid worker, it is a failed. I mean, he didn't achieve anything. The only thing he actually done is classify Limby worker as a dependent contractor. And it still hasn't sorted our solution because the government needs to. I mean, at the end of the day, put it this way. What I managed to achieve, me and James is a good friend of mine now because we worked together. We set up UPAT, we took Uber to court. But it's not down to us to take a company like Uber into court because they're exploiting or abusing.
No, you're relying on bigger authorities to be there to support you and back you up. I totally get that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, the thing is, enforcing the law, that's the job of the government. It's not our job. And it just seems like to me that as well as Uber, we also got the government that are offloading their responsibilities onto precarious workers. And these precarious workers are in the greatest need. They're very vulnerable. They're in a desperate situation where they have to work and they need to work and they just don't want to cause any issues.
But this is the thing, you see, and I want to move on if I may, because it can be daunting to take on a big company when you're a little fish and you're facing this big old fish and you're going to take them to court. It can be daunting, whoever they are, and because of what you've done, you and James have now been named as one of the 100 most influential people shaping British technology for their battle with this particular company. How does it feel to be recognised in this way?
I mean, to be honest, Andy, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we were recognised. This wasn't the first time we were listed. We were also listed last year as well, where we were listed number 26, just one behind Stephen Hawking there. Now, the thing is, the reality is we are, like me and Jay, we're a bunch of nobodies. We're not no one special, but we managed to take on Uber, and it is because we are persistent, we stood our ground, we carried on, we had to suffer mentally, we suffered financially, our family suffered as a result. So it's great to see some kind of achievement, to be recognized. But the problem is, from my side of view, it hasn't solved our problem because we're still in this mess. And it's like where I live in High Wycombe. Like my MP is Steve Baker. He hasn't supported me anyways. And it's not just Steve Baker. It's just like the government. Like, for example, when I mentioned Addison Lee, we have Luton licensing. So we have a regulator in place like Transport for London. These regulators are failing to protect workers like myself. And there's a lot more that could be done to protect us guys. And I think that the reality comes down to.
But by doing this, your voice is being heard, and you're getting the message out there, and hopefully you will get the support, you will get the backing that you need for this. You said, I really appreciate you joining us on the show this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
No worries. Thank you for having me, Andy. Yep.
Cheers, pal. Thank you. We contacted Uber for a response, but so far they have not responded. This is BBC Three Counties Radio. It's Monday the 21st of October. If you want to get in touch, pick up the phone and give us a call on 08081 0088